Hey, it's Frank here with 4D Honeybee, and we're going to have a look at the Costanza hive today. So why do I call it the Costanza hive, you might ask? Well, it's because this hive is always the opposite of, it does the opposite of everything you'd ever expect it to do. It went queenless last year. I requeened it. It went into the winter with 2 brood boxes. It had a family of mice move in it, so it moved up into the top brood box. I reduced it to 1 brood box this spring. I added a 2nd brood box probably about 3-4 weeks ago now. So I'm hoping that it has built up that 2nd brood box to the point where I might add a honey super now that it's mid-July. It's like July 12th, July 11th, that type of thing. So hopefully it's doing robustly enough that I can add in a honey super and let it continue to build. But I have no idea what I'm going to find with Costanza. Thanks for joining me. Costanza. Okay, so I'm trying a bit of a further away angle today for this video so that hopefully you'll be able to see more. Because sometimes I find them jammed in too tight, thinking that is the best way to show you what's going on. So we'll see how this works out. Don't know what I'm expecting to find in this hive because it has just been so all over the place. Now I have a feeder on it, but I am going to remove the feeder because there is an incredible honey flow on now, and it's been on for the better part of a week. We've got warm temperatures and absolutely perfect conditions for these bees to be doing well. So I fed them because they were coming off the spring, living with those mice in their homes. But you can see there's no interest in food here. They've eaten it all already. So looking in, first peek into the hive, and I don't see much. You know, there's a few bees up there. Looks like they've drawn out some comb, but you know, it'd be nice to see these guys absolutely bubbling over out of that frame. But anyway, we'll see what Costanza is going to give us this time. We'll start without smoking them. This hive has been very calm the whole time I've had them. So, and they haven't built much burr comb up here, which is usually not a very good sign. There's an okay number of bees is what I'd say right off the bat. Again, just looking for the queen on the lid. Just going to lower this down for you a little bit. No queen to be had there. So we will get the frame hanger on and pull some frames. It looks like they have drawn out stuff very nicely in this box. Again, I'll give you that look because you can see there is drawn out comb on every frame. And that's really what we want, right? Because as you can see, this box started with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 empty frames. 3 were drawn out. I brought them from the box below. So if we see good production here, which is what we've seen so far, then we may put on a honey super for Costanza and see if George wants to fill that out. That's maybe what I'll call this queen, Queen George. Okay, let's see what we got here. Haven't smoked them yet. They're very docile. It's a bit of a windy day. It's a nice warm day, but it's windy. So it's not a great beekeeping day. But we'll see how she goes. Now this first frame I would expect to be all honey, and it is heavy like a honey frame, that's for sure. Wow. Watch yourself, guys. Tremendous frame of almost 100% capped honey. Okay, we'll get this going over here. Probably should have put the hanger on the other side, but what the hey. Okay, next frame looks like it's a lot of honey as well. I'm going to try and do this inspection fairly quickly because I know they'll get impatient the longer I'm in here. Wow, it's really cemented in. Just all honey on this frame. Look at that, it's light on one side. See that okay? And dark on the other side. Very typical to see that here. Next frame is just full of honey as well. Again, this was a frame that 3-4 weeks ago was not even drawn out, and now it is completely, absolutely chocker-blocked full of capped honey. Almost full of capped honey. Isn't that odd that they would not build out that little bit in the middle? Look at that. Just a beautiful frame. So, next frame is looking like honey as well, so you start to think, okay, maybe these guys are honey bound. And maybe the queen needs some more room to lay up in this upper brood box. And that may be the case, because here we go with another frame. Wow, look at it just dripping with honey. Almost completely full of honey. Again, I was hoping to see some brood up in this box, but there's just not even many bees up in this box at all. So, again, Costanza throws me a curveball that at this point right now I'm not quite sure how to handle. There's nothing wrong with this, but you do want the queen to have room for this. Look at that beautiful brood pattern. Oh my goodness. That is an absolutely beautiful brood pattern. Honey all the way around the sides, brood in the middle, capped and ready to go. But look at this right here. Look at that. That looks like it might have been a swarm cell that was on its way or was already capped. So we'll keep an eye out for those as well. That side is honey. Now we're getting into some really nice brood frames. This is looking really good. So chances are, now there don't seem to be that many bees up here. There are probably more bees now in these frames as I pull them out. And of course we need to keep an eye for the queen, because these are the kind of frames that the queen would be on, right? So you see it's this is all hatched out brood, or just about to hatch brood. You can actually see their little heads popping through some of the capped cells there. Let's see what's going on the other side. Yeah, this is very nicely capped brood. Okay, put this back in. Alright, so if Costanza keeps up like this, I think I'm adding some honey supers. I don't see a whole lot of bees up here, but they've definitely used up this entire resource, this entire box. Holy smokes. Look at that, another nice brood pattern. Lots of honey on this one, but still just perfect brood. This one is the same. Just a beautiful, beautiful frame. And that's the bonus you get about using new equipment. Like, this was a brand new frame. It was undrawn out, so it took them a while to draw it out, but once they get it drawn out, it is just pristine. And you know that all the honey on these frames, if you get into a honey-bound situation and you want to deal with it, you can always spin a couple of these frames, honey frames, up in this box, because they haven't been treated for mites, so you don't have to worry about chemicals and that kind of thing, and you can just take the honey for yourself. This is a nice frame with, again, more honey than brood, but it's decent enough. This side, all honey. Boy oh boy, just beautiful. Okay, next couple of frames are all honey. 100% honey. So I'm going to show you this one. Look at that. Oh my gosh. It is just stunning. Perfect frame of honey. And the next one over is just the same. I'm not going to pull it out. You know, I'm tempted to, and I'm going to come back to this hive. I'm tempted to extract a couple of those perfect honey frames, because they're so big and they're so beautiful, and the honey is so perfect. And they will need more space eventually to make more bees, because the number of bees is kind of light in this hive. But look, I mean, what more can you ask for? I haven't smoked this hive, bees haven't come up. I really should take a look in the bottom brood box, but right now the most important thing to do is to put a honey super on these bees, because they're ready to go up into the next box. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll just do that, show you that process after it's done. I'll be back with you in a sec. Okay, so we're going to do a quick search for the queen in this bottom brood box, just because this queen is marked, so she should be relatively easy to spot. And I mentioned about doing a video like this where I'm just going to look at the queen for a while to see how she moves, etc. Oh, look at that drone comb. Because sometimes when you have a marked queen, that's fine. You can spot her and everything's good and dandy. But when you don't have a queen, spotting her is a real challenge. And I've had a lot of issues with that. I mean, not serious issues. I'm probably getting better at it. But like anything, I think that the more practice you get at it, the better. So what I'm going to try to do is spot the queen. Probably should have taken a better look for the queen on that frame, but I'm going to think that she's not on that frame. It's not an ideal frame for her to be on. Here's another frame just full of drone comb. Look at that. Looking at these down here, which could be swarm cells. And that one did have an egg in it. So I'll tell you what, if I find any more swarm cells, I'm not going to do anything with them. This hive doesn't have that many bees in it, and I did find another swarm cell. So until I find the queen, really, I probably shouldn't be destroying any of the swarm cells, right? Because we might just be getting rid of the queen. Now, I did see a ton of capped brood up in the upper box, but I didn't really see any young larvae or eggs. I was expecting that to be down in the bottom brood box here, so let's see what we get. Wow, beautiful brood frame here. Now what oh yeah, look at this swarm cell. Goodness gracious. That is a perfect swarm cell right there, ready to emerge. So maybe I'll put this one aside too. Ooh, here's another one that has already emerged. Look at that. Oh, no, that was broken. Now that was broken into and probably killed by a queen that may have emerged already. You see that? So this is going to be really interesting to try to spot a queen on these frames, because they may have already made a new queen. Right? And again, the evidence that I'm using on that is lots of swarm cells. There is lots of brood in here. You see the larva as well? Let's see if we can find eggs in this one. There's lots of pollen. Yeah, there are some eggs. So again, the thing is, there could be eggs because this could be a laying worker, right? Although there's a ton of comb in here that is, or sorry, there's a ton of brood in here that is definitely female brood. So we've just got to keep looking for evidence here and see what Costanza is going to give us, see? Really hard to say with the evidence that we've seen here. Just looking for a queen. And again, I'm not going to make the assumption that the queen is marked, because that makes her really easy to spot. And this queen may have already split, may have already swarmed on me, so. Okay, let's keep looking. Now, how is this one in? I think this one is in this way. Okay. And these bees are nice and docile still, so I'll keep going through the inspection without smoke and just seeing how they behave. One beekeeper made a really good point. He said that the bees react to how they are treated. So if you're nice and calm and collected and you treat them well, then they're going to be calm, right? And I do believe that to some degree. Some bees are just nasty. but I have to really try to tell myself to stay calm and just manage these bees. Still looking for a queen. Don't see her. Lots of big drones doing nothing, which is what drones do or don't do. On this side, lots of comb. So if I find the queen, I may take action on the swarm cells that I see, because I generally don't want them to swarm. If I don't spot the queen, then I'm just going to let them go. Now I'm expecting to find her in the next 3 or 4 frames. Okay, let's see what we got here. This is an ugly frame. Lots of drone comb and regular comb and more swarm cells on the bottom, see? Another swarm cell here. Another one here, which is not quite capped. So there's something going on in this hive, but I don't know what. It's Costanza, right? It's the opposite of everything you'd ever expect. Top brood box look beautiful, full of honey, full of perfect, absolutely perfect new brood. Bottom brood box is, well, it's an unholy disaster. That's what it looks like. Just looking at the bees for any signs of disease as well. And for mites. I mean, these bees are very prone to mites. There's no doubt about that. But I haven't been able to spot them. Here's... I was going to say there was a bee there with a wing deformation, but it's not. It's just signaling. Okay, let's see what these bees are doing right on the bottom here. What is going on there? It just looks like burr comb. And then there's an uncapped queen cell there that they're working on. A perfectly capped queen cell right beside it. And an okay amount of bees, like not a ton of bees, but certainly enough, I'd say. So 3 more frames for me to decide what I'm going to do with this box, because it is kind of a mystery, an ongoing mystery. Costanza.
Can't stand you? Can't stand you?
I'm in shorts again today because it's just too stinking hot. And again, I was going in with a renewed confidence today because I find that early in the season things change and your confidence can be shaken. But then as the season goes on, you get more confident as a beekeeper. And again, this frame looks perfectly fine. Again, look at all the queen cells. My goodness. I just don't feel like I should be destroying them. A, because I haven't seen the queen. B, because there's not that many bees in here. And C, because I just don't know what I'm doing. No, I know mostly what I'm doing, but just because I have destroyed queen cells before at great lengths, and I believe that ended up damaging the colony quite a bit. Now the queen in this hive was marked as well. So if she's here, I should be able to see her. If she's not here, then that might be the reason for all the queen cells. So all the more reason to leave them alone. So I'll put this back in, pull a couple more frames, see if I can spot the queen. And if not, then we'll just button this up. I may put a honey super on it, I may not, because they certainly have filled in the second brood box with plenty of honey. So they may be wanting to move that honey up to the super and make more bees. I don't know. We'll see. Another beautiful frame of brood. Nothing resembling a queen yet. Lots of bunching down here, so I want to see what's going on here. But again, with the queen, they don't normally bunch up on her. What I find is that more or less the queen moves in a pretty deliberate way, and the bees just kind of get out of her way, right? There are tending bees, which are always kind of around her, following her, touching her, feeding her, cleaning her. But overall, it's not like there's a huge ball of bees sitting on the queen, unless they're actually balling her, which is a totally different thing. A couple more frames and then I will call this one. But I don't know what I'm going to call it. I'm going to call it confusing is what I'm going to call it, because as always, Costanza throws me a curveball. You could still see the queen on these next couple of frames. Very few bees on this frame. This frame is just full of nectar, as you can see. More swarm cells at the bottom there. Still don't see a queen. Okay, a couple more frames to look at. But I got the feeling we are looking at a hive that has maybe already swarmed or gotten rid of their queen for some reason and is building new queens. The thing is, when they're building new queens, they usually build them as supercedure cells halfway up, not as swarm cells. Well, look what I see here. There's a supercedure cell right there. So obviously they want to make a new queen, so I'm not going to interfere with them. I'm going to put it all back together. I'm not going to destroy any of those supercedure cells. I think the old queen from last year that I requeened is gone. And I think she probably may have just swarmed, because there's not a whole lot of bees in this hive. She's not in this hive. And like you saw, there's a ton of queen cells in there. So I will put a super on top, because that top honey box is pretty much honey bound. And the new queen, if she's made, will need some room to lay. So hopefully they'll move resources up, honey from the bottom two boxes up to the top, and hopefully it'll keep going. Again, the Costanza hive continues to be a mystery. Here I was, arrogant enough to think that I'd make this a little tutorial on how to watch a queen, and I don't think there is a queen in this hive. So I'm going to clean up all this burr comb and put the hive back together, put supers on the top, and that's it for Costanza for another mysterious day. Okay, so I've put in 10 frames to start in this honey box. I usually use 9 frames, but if I put 9 frames in to begin with, they can start building some funky burr comb. So I use plastic just because it spins the easiest, and it's a wax covered plastic, so they build this out really quick and it's really nice and clean. What I want to do next year is start with a foundationless frame so that we can have wax in the honey. So the Costanza hive, I'm going to leave it, I'd say, for about a week probably. In a week I'll come back and see what's going on with all those queen cells that we saw. It's likely, in my opinion, that the queen has already swarmed. By the look of the fact that I didn't see many eggs. I may have seen some eggs, but there's a lot of drone laying there. So it could have been a laying worker that laid some of those recent eggs. But more than not, what I saw was cap brood, and maybe 3 or 4 day old larva, which tells me that she's probably swarmed a few days ago. So that's life. I mean, there's still a lot of bees in here. It can still be very productive, particularly if they produce another queen. If not, I'm no stranger to requeening this hive. So I'll give it about a week and see what happens with Costanza. Top 40 honey.